Sagittarius rising. How you doing, Sag? This is your reading for the Aquarius new moon that happened on the 29th of January 2025. I'm obviously recording this after the event, but you are not missing out on any of the messages that come through in this reading because this energy, I tap into 6-month cycles with the lunations. So what comes through here is going to serve you for the Aquarius era of your chart for the next 6 months up until the Aquarius full moon. Ishala Diana, Dishani Moyala Modoshani Miyana, Diana Modoeni. My name's Chloe. I work with card divination, astrology, and as you heard, and as you can see, I channel multi-dimensional energies through my body, both in the form of physical and vocal light language. All of this brings in healing, attunement, and activation codes to the messages that want to come through in this reading. Ishala Diani Modoela. Now, I just want to say, before starting this reading, I found myself naturally, intuitively humming, intuitively singing. Not words, but just a constant stream of this very sweet, loving tune that was coming through. It was a very beautiful energy, Sag, and I feel like it's very much linked into what's going to come through in this reading. So we'll see, and it's also linked into the house placement of where this new moon has shown up for you. Now, firstly, a little bit of housekeeping. At the moment, from that new moon to the full moon in Leo, which is the 12th of February, all private readings are 50% off. The code is Luna50 that you can apply on the website. If you want to pay by PayPal, email me directly and we'll obviously work out the amount. Second bit of housekeeping is I've set up a second YouTube channel called Quantum Vibe Tarot. It's where I get to be a bit more playful, a bit more creative. They're more shorter transmissions, right? They bring in activation codes that are kind of timeless, and I'm on camera and I'm using lots of decks, and it's lots more channeling rather than fixed in astrology and going into a lot of detail that I do on this channel. So if you feel so inclined to check that out, there's only 2 videos up at the moment. One, healing the wounded inner child, and the follow-up of activating our higher avatar of love. And I'm going to be doing one for the Virgo South Node and a separate one for the Pisces North Node, which obviously we've had that nodal shift now. Cannot recommend that transit series enough. Honestly, the energy of this nodal transit, and it's affecting you, Sag, because it's squaring your energy, is profound. It's completely radically changing my reality and how I connect to it. And lots of good stuff came through in that transit series. And obviously it's eclipses, so that's big energy. But I'm going to be doing a transmission for North and South Node to help us bring in a frequency of the most integrated and expansive intention of that transit. So really elevate how that transit's showing up for us. They're going to come out probably over the next week. Right, my love. So I read for the rising signs. So for those of you who don't have Sagittarius in the first house, look to the house it does fall in. Look to the themes of that house, and you want to apply those themes to the messages that come through in this reading, along with all the other meaning you've got going on in the sign of Sagittarius. It will be as if that Sagittarius energy, wherever it falls in your natal chart, has now energetically moved to the first house. So when I talk about the astrology for the rising sign, it will always still link in. You've just got to add on your own natal chart meaning on top of it. For example, I have Sagittarius over in the 5th house, so I'd apply the themes of the 5th as well as Uranus, and so I'll apply the meaning of Uranus. Italia, who's gone direct, by the way, right? We've now got a forward motion Uranus. It happened yesterday on the 30th of January. So you may have noticed some sudden changes, some bright ideas come through, very inventive energy for the Taurus area of your chart where Uranus happens to be right now. Right. Okay, little bit of housekeeping for this transit. There is a 2-part series, that the first 2 videos of this transit for the new moon. And this is the Chinese New Year, as well as the Lunar New Year and the cross-quarter fire festival of Imbolc here in the Northern Hemisphere. That's the midpoint between the Capricorn solstice and the Aries equinox. Now, all of these things I brought into part 1, as well as go into detail of the wood snake, which is the Chinese zodiac symbol that we're working with this year, as well as the numerology of the year 9, and they all interlinked. Very powerful stuff. So that's over in part 1. Part 2 is where I break down the astrology of this new moon in way more detail of how all the celestial bodies are talking to each other at the exact moment that forms a harmonic blueprint. It activates a code within us. And so I really got into the weeds of that and pulled collective tarot. Big messages came through. I talked about Hermeticism, about the Tao, because Aquarius is the universal truths of it all, right? And so really trying to bring in some energy to help apply to our day to day to get an alignment with this big Aquarius energy. 1, it's the first lunation with Pluto firmly staying in Aquarius. And 2, it's the first new moon since the nodes changed signs. We had the Cancer full moon a couple of days after the nodal shift, and now this is the first new moon. And that has a significance because eclipses are linked into lunations. So that particular cycle is imprinted into this unfolding of the Pisces-Virgo axis. And there were 2 main themes that came up, which I'm going to talk about in this reading, but there was so much stuff that came through in that part too. So if you want a deeper dive about what's going to show up here, pause this video, go watch that 2-part series, and then come back to see how it applies to the Sagittarius area of your chart. Now, Sagittarius rising, where is this happening for you? This is happening in your 3rd house, the house of the goddess. This is the moon's favorite place to be, so it's a beautiful energy coming in for you, my loves. And this is how you find meaning in the day-to-day, how you bring your big picture philosophies up from the 9th into the little things, into the washing up, into the walk to the shop. The more that we find resonance and meaning and flow in the simple things, right, the more that has a knock-on effect with the bigger picture. For me, the 3rd house is the gateway to the expansive reconnection back to source. So fascinating. It was in the Pisces-Virgo transit that this started, that the channeling that I do, we're getting more quite like mantra work, mantra energy come through. Sounds very mantra-like. And what I've been picking up with that, and it's been happening throughout this transit as well, is this sense of repetition, this awareness of doing the work. And I've been felt called to say this year, the soul retrieval work that we do this year is going to have a profound effect. It's going to launch us into the year 1 next year. The astrology for the next 2 years is wild. We're upgrading our consciousness at a huge level. We're stepping into our reconnection to source in an insane way, in the best possible way. But it does require us to step up to the plate. It does require us to put in the daily habits to refine and amplify this frequency, and it's going to serve us. So this is why I feel like this mantra energy, as well as with that sort of universal truth of Aquarius, is kind of like hinting at the more you do this on a day-to-day basis, and very appropriate for you for the 3rd house, the more you're sort of, not that you're hardcore with yourself, although I'm currently being hardcore with myself in every way, in the most loving way as well, of just the hyper awareness of the old patterns, right? And knowing that when you show up and redirect that energy every day, you bring your mental construct of how you think into your physical vessel. It then starts to you get more of an emotional resonance, and then it comes into your instinct, but it does require practice. And that's what I feel like with this mantra energy that's coming in, is like the acknowledgement of do the work, Do the work. It will change your life. So third house is meaning in the day-to-day, your local community, the things you do in the day-to-day. It's your environmental frequency. That frequency of Aquarius helps you feel good in your day-to-day energy, that very egalitarian, future thinking frequency. It is the lens in which you communicate through, and that's why it was very interesting that I was sort of singing this very joyful, serene frequency was coming in, and it was this sort of very natural. You may want to start trying doing free form singing, right, or humming without any intention, really softening your throat and just allowing that to come through. My singing voice, I was only ever good at singing in a group, singing in a choir. And when I sang by myself, my voice was so distorted. It was off key. It felt trapped. And the work that I've done over the last however many years, the singing voice that's coming through, I could never whistle. The whistling that's coming through is blowing my mind. And so it's that openness to your throat, the openness to how source is coming through to you. And it's interesting because for me, Aquarius is very much about frequencies, right? High vibrational frequencies, sacred geometry, which is why I'm using a sacred geometry deck here, of really allowing space for source to come through in certain frequencies in the way that you're communicating. So this is a new moon. It's also linked into learning new things, short distance trips, and siblings. So we've got some fresh new energy coming in. Now, one of the key themes that came through before I did the collective reading was neutrality over numbness. Numbness is when we put our defenses up, when we're restoring ourselves, when we feel disconnected from certain things, that we've got to protect ourselves from that emotional body and from certain experiences. And we need that at certain points in our lives, but it's actually suppressing things, and it means that we can't fully expand. So this energy of that Aquarius energy, which is kind of like the eagle eye view, the detachedness of it all, of seeing the bigger picture, and that is getting into a state of neutrality of what's going on in your life at any given moment. When you start to cultivate that within you, it's not about denying emotional responses, it's not about denying preferences, it's simply operating from the first instance from a place of neutrality. Whatever's going on, of being neutral, not having expectations or assumptions, or feeling fear or being in conflict. This is from that state of neutrality. What comes after that is pure co-creation with source, because we're no longer in resistance to our incarnation. We're no longer in resistance to what's going on in our lives, and that brings conflict, that brings resistance, which means we get entangled in it rather than allow it to move through, allow it to expand and come up in ways that are beyond our fear responses, right? And so this is a key theme with this moon. And the other theme that came through in regards to the astrology is this moon was conjunct Pluto and Mercury. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, the only god that could go to the underworld, earth and heaven. Was conjunct Pluto at the time of this moon. And Pluto represents your rooted power, your magnetism, right? And Pluto for me is inherently about neutrality, and it brings up the opposite of that, because it's wanting us to get to a space of being okay, being neutral about change, about transformation, about the cycle of life, death and rebirth. And obviously that's very hard for us wee little humans to do. We really struggle with that. And so it highlights distorted power dynamics. It highlights possession, obsession, control. In order to redirect us back to a state of neutrality. But it brings up riches, things that have been hidden from us. And so this new moon in Aquarius is bringing up with this universal truth that has been within you, that now is being revealed, and you're now going to be working with that over the next 6 months. So this is what this pile's all about. This is highlighting what is this universal truth that Pluto has unearthed, that Mercury has transmitted that frequency to the new moon, to imprinted in the unconscious realm of the moon, because the moon was at her darkest, her most receptive. Okay, and with the full vision of the sun, of the awareness of this, right? And it's going to unfold over the next 6 months. So that's what's coming through in pile 1, of what's this universal truth that this new moon has activated for you. So you're reclaiming a great deal of power in the way that you move through your day-to-day, in the way that you find meaning, in the way that you communicate. And obviously Pluto's going to be there for 19 years. So you're really transforming. You're going to be healing a lot from school, right? So often, right, we've had difficult situations. If you've got siblings or people who you grew up with that felt like siblings, that can often say things and be a bit cruel when you're younger, that then get imprinted into your unconscious spaces. So Pluto's going to be helping you work through and transform and bring that power of the resonance of meaning in your day-to-day, of how you step up to yourself in the day-to-day and find that resonance in the way that you communicate, as well as your capacity to learn new things and expand. So that is some big energy that you're working with now in the sign of Aquarius for you, my loves. Now, the only major aspect I'm going to talk about with this moon, other than what I've already mentioned, and there's other stuff going on, but as I said, that's all over in the part 2 of the collective reading, is that this moon was trining Jupiter over in Gemini, which is opposite your sign, Sagittarius, right, in the house of the other. Now, the other is your one-on-one important relationships in your life, right? This can be your business partner. This can be one-on-one clients, working one-on-one with people, your therapist, near and dear friends, your ride and die friends, long-term committed romantic relationships. That is too many cards. We just want one more. As well as your relationship with Source. So Jupiter's there. Jupiter was retrograde at the time of this new moon. It will be going direct on the 4th of February. So keep an eye out on the 4th of some shifts around your sense of wisdom, your sense of knowing, that sense of abundance and opportunities, and integration of your understanding of the 7th, right? And what that means to you, how you show up to it, what do you want from it, all of that kind of thing. But at the moment, right, the new moon and this retrograde Jupiter is imprinted for the next 6 months, but that doesn't mean you're not going to see outward manifestation of the intention of Jupiter, because it's going to go direct, but you're still going to be working with the retrograde Jupiter. Now, Jupiter being retrograde means you question things, right, in a really healthy way. It helps you rethink things, and so rethinking your understanding of the other, right? So often we can have a lot of trauma energy with the other, this level of commitment. Are you able to receive? Are you able to give? Are you able to commit to the other? Is the other able to commit to you? We can often have distorted love languages from our parental figures that mean that we're then recreating those dynamics with important people in our life, not just in a romantic way. Whether you're able to connect to Source and feel the love of Source and really be able to work together and collaborate with Source. Okay, Sag. This is all wild. I think I've seen all of the cards, which is fun. I do like going in blind as well. I don't know this one. That Jupiter, I happen to have Jupiter retrograde in the 7th, and it really does allow you to do some deep inner work when it comes to how what's going on with the other, and really reassess how you're affected by it, right? It's also the vast, like Jupiter retrograde is also bringing all of the qualities of Jupiter internally, right? So this is the abundance internally, the internal wisdom, the eternal integration of self in regards to the other, the sense of opportunities and abundance within yourself by having outward experiences with the other as well, that just helps you understand yourself, your connection to Source, how you want to show up with the other, how the other's showing up with you. You're able to really refine and bring depth and nuance to it. And obviously this is imprinted for the next 6 months, but as I said, Jupiter's going to go direct on the 4th, so you're going to see some outward manifestation in regards to the other. There just might be more ease and flow. There may be certain experiences. Jupiter moving through the 7th, sometimes it's about an important person coming into your life where you get a lot of wisdom, where there's a sense of like the sharing each other's guru energy. Now that doesn't just have to be a romantic relationship. It can be anything else. You can have an abundance of getting more clients come in when Jupiter moves direct, an abundance in your connection to source. It can mean in a significant love relationship when Jupiter moves through the 7th is going to come through. When it happened for me, it was with Saturn as well. Interestingly enough, this is when I put the infinity symbol on my marriage ring, right? That committed relationship, and I committed to source. I committed to working with source in that connection. So it doesn't just have to be romantic. Anyway, that Jupiterian energy is trining this new moon. A trine is an aspect of Jupiter. Jupiter wants to bring things together in order to integrate, to elevate, to bring wisdom, to bring a sense of faith. And with that faith comes a deeper resonance of confidence within yourself, right? That abundant nature of Jupiter, of how you're feeling good, you're feeling more connected to your bigger picture ideas. And that's where the sort of abundance, the flow, the opportunities, the luck energy can come in. And all of this is feeding into your 3rd house. So there's going to be a lot of wisdom coming in from source to help you feel very grounded and present in your 3D, in your day-to-day. A lot of communication, a lot of wisdom from source that you're going to be picking up on and figuring out, and how that relates to you, how you communicate that, and co-creating in that way. You can see if it is dealing with the 3D form of one-on-one relationships, of having healthier conversations, really knowing what it is that you want to express. So often we can struggle with relationships because they just don't communicate, right? And so this is the wisdom-orientated energy of Jupiter over in the 7th, and your house of communication, with Mercury being there and Pluto, of very radical transformative understandings when it comes to the other and how to communicate that and what's important to you. If you've been in a relationship where it disrupts your day-to-day, where your meaning is being drained out, you find your throat is being blocked, you're going to be able to work through that. And really, that could either elevate the relationship you're already in, or you're just like, enough is enough, right? You're not listening. You're not even giving me space to talk or communicate, and you're just like, no, I'm done with this isn't working, right? It all depends on the soul contracts and all of that. Right, the only other bit of astrology I'm going to talk about is the fact that Saturn traditionally rules Aquarius. So whatever's going on with Saturn is influencing this moon, right? So Saturn's in Pisces, in your 4th house, your roots and your foundations, your ancestors, both blood and soul lineage, the roof over your head, your parental figures, and the things that you do in private. It is a strong energy of foundational growth, right? And so as I said, there's love languages that we can learn from our parental figures and also take on board from the ancestors, as well as whether you're finding meaning in the day-to-day. Perhaps your parental figures, really weren't able to do that. And so you may be holding on to that. Saturn's making sure it's strengthening your foundations, right? Of how you then build in the world, how you expand in the world from a strong foundational space. Saturn's making sure that this expansion in how you feel grounded in the world is feeding into how you find meaning in the little things in the day-to-day. You're releasing a lot of wounds in the 4th. It's allowing you to communicate from your true voice, right? And find that joy, right? Think of the humming that I was doing, the singing that I was doing. I was doing things around the house while that was happening, right? And I felt very serene, and it was just beautiful. Now, also a lot of wisdom communicated from the ancestors in the way that you understand the world, right? You're going to get a lot of strength there. Now, Jupiter traditionally rules Pisces, so we're bringing in that 7th house. We're bringing in source as well as the ancestors of how you find resonance in your day-to-day. You're bringing in this resonance of, okay, where you're headed, where you're expanding with the other has got to serve your foundational energy. For some of you, this might be having conversations about moving in with someone, right? It could mean more clients come in. That means you feel foundationally strong. You got that money, you got that bag that then helps you find more joy in the day-to-day. Now, it's not just material, it's obviously very spiritual as well. Mercury rules Gemini, right? So Mercury's in the sign of Aquarius. So we've got this feedback loop between these 3 houses, between these 3 planets. Mercury, how we collect, engage, and process and share information, right? Saturn is the longer term goals, the responsibility, the commitment to your legacy. Jupiter's the sense of expansion, the sense of faith, the sense of knowing. I'm really cultivating a strong day-to-day, strong foundational energy where the other isn't distorting you. And in fact, it's we're bringing in an elevation of wisdom, and letting go of any trauma responses, limiting beliefs around how to commit, how to be with the other from a strong foundational space, and your capacity to be able to communicate with that and understand your needs. Right, let's get into these cards. So we have consciousness and Rada, soul flame. Right, first up we'll do consciousness. The frequency of consciousness supports our ability to focus our attention on all the multidimensional aspects that show up so that we can include them in our reality. So think of your day-to-day. Think of all the communication, all the information that's surrounding you in your day-to-day that you're becoming more aware of. You're becoming more aware of the multidimensional sphere, of how of source, your guides, people in your life, communications, downloads, upgrades, jigsaw pieces to help you feel solid in the 3D world. Consciousness can be described as a state of awareness or focused intention. And whatever we direct our attention will dominate our minds. So that is highlighting. And that's something I've been felt very called to talk about, which I genuinely haven't felt connected to. We create our own reality. Everyone is running around in their own reality. And I knew that, but there was part of me that didn't really want to bring that up and really firmly say on this channel, because, you know, people can get triggered when they've had difficult things in their lives of others putting the agency on them of like, you created that, right? We don't often want to hear that. It can go into some real big philosophical, theological questioning, right? Of how can there be all this chaos and drama, right? How can there be this pain? And now you're putting that on me, that I did that. It can mess with the mind. But I felt so strongly around this energy of, we like do the work, recalibrate how you perceive the world away from fear. And the more that you do that, the less the fear that comes towards you. Something happened the other day with the person that I lived with. They decided they were going to clean the windows of the house. And great, fantastic. I was doing recording during the day and they were really worried. They had this fear wormhole in their brain that they were really worried that they were going to interrupt me, they were going to disturb me, even though I'm completely fine. That didn't even cross my mind. And it ended up being that things started happening that I needed to come and help, right? So this thing that they were focused on manifested, right? That fear actually manifested. And you know, that can be a lot, but this is really saying, especially with your third house, of how you communicate, how you find that meaning, how you find that resonance. The more you're going to put things into practice, the more you're going to realize, oh no, wait a minute, I have control here, right? So it's really helping you get right with the way that you communicate internally and externally, and how that's showing up in the day-to-day. So I'm going to read that again. Consciousness can be described as a state of awareness or focused intention, and wherever we direct our attention will dominate our minds. Like the universe, consciousness is alive, forever expanding, breathing, morphing. Consciousness reflects reality, and reality reflects consciousness in return. In this new energy, our consciousness is rapidly expanding to hold the awareness of the many multidimensional aspects of reality. We are increasingly capable of multi-directing our attention to many different layers at the same time, providing us with a deep, rich experience in every moment. We no longer receive input solely through the senses that are closely connected to our physical body alone. We receive communication beyond the body through intuitive thought, intuitive knowing, and intuitive feeling. Light and consciousness are closely connected. They both have quantum attributes and are non-linear. Light is an energy that can be created through consciousness, and consciousness can create light in return. Light influences our awareness, our perception, our consciousness, and therefore our reality. The center of the consciousness image shows the place of birth, where light bursts out of the core to spread into various planes of reality. The bright purple indicates the connection to source, and the yellow spheres refer to our sense of self emerging from source and expanding into the flower of life grid, the basis for our 3D dimensional reality. The blue in the image refers to the deep, dark universe, the origin of everything that shows up in our reality. But since everything is always in motion, so is consciousness. Like a breath, morphing, changing, expanding, and the color could easily flow from blue into purple, into red, into yellow, and so on. So you're really stepping into your divine consciousness. This is the universal truth that was always within you that is coming to the surface with this new moon and will be unfolding over the next 6 months. This is quite powerful in how you, as I say, I find the third house is the gateway to the bigger manifestations, to the bigger recalibration of your reality. And so it's really doubling down on saying you are at this point where you are shifting your consciousness, right? So you've really struggled with finding that meaning, finding that joy in the day-to-day. This is saying you are getting in alignment, right, with this universal love consciousness, with this understanding that when you put in the practice every day to reorientate that fear into a space of trust, right? This is very in alignment with the north and south node going on right now. You're going to be bringing this frequency in at such a higher level. Radha, soul flame, rediscover a lost part of yourself, experience relationship harmony and healing. So a relationship with the way that you communicate, a relationship with your day-to-day, as well as it's bringing in that Jupiter energy over in the house of the other. The Hindu goddess Radha is the divine feminine counterpart and twin flame of Krishna. She is considered to represent Shakti, the divine feminine and creative spirit of the universal life force. Without the female, the male cannot be created, and for this reason, Shakti is a powerful force that is honored and cherished. Radha is completely devoted to her partner and illustrates the age-old adage, behind every powerful man is a powerful woman. She is dedicated to supporting all those who seek relationship harmony and healing. At one point, she learned what it was like to be separated from Krishna, and so she can bring great healing to those who are also suffering the loss of a partner or a separation or simply a relationship not working out, right? Probably for the best, right? But we still have that grief, that pain, and then that expectation of always being in a state of separation when it comes to the other. And I feel this isn't just about a romantic relationship. It's generally that kind of one-on-one dynamic. Have you had near and dear friends who just all of a sudden disappear? Have you had a business partner that goes away, right? Or clients all of a sudden just disappearing? Or disconnecting from source and the pain of that at some point in your life, as well as from the ancestors coming through, right? And this is Radha is coming in and doing some radical self-healing for you. Isha limodoela. Loving union, connection, and relationship harmony are key at this time. It is important to remember, though, that relationships won't make you whole. Only your own love can do that. You now have opportunities to find lost parts of yourself, maybe sensual aspects or the capacity to cherish yourself. The relationships around you will then begin to reflect the love you have for yourself. Increased romance, love, and opportunities to express divine harmony through love are all becoming apparent in your life. You deserve divine love, and Radha, with her Shakti presence, is here to awaken this loving connection within you now. Get inside. Right, the challenge. This is the challenge that we've got to work through. We'll get a card. We'll cut the deck and get a card for support. 5 of Pentacles. Okay, so this really does apply to both the 3rd house and the 7th. So this is the scarcity mindset, right? Usually for very good reason. These figures have been left out in the cold. They're run down. They're exhausted. They don't have support, right? But they're in this pattern. They're outside a church. Arguably, they could go inside that church and feel warm and feel this sense of being held. Now, church is just a representation of our connection to source, right? So this isolation from sources, isolation from support. So in the 3rd house, this disconnect from finding meaning. Perhaps your day-to-day, you're just exhausted. You're having to do all the things and you can't find the joy in doing the washing up because it's you and you alone doing all the chores, right? This isn't your disconnect from source, right? In the way that you communicate, in honoring that you have that within you, right? You have this deeper meaning within you that's felt very disconnected. Relationship dynamics. Same again, that one-on-one relationships, right? Perhaps there's this sense of run down, exhausted, separate. It never felt good. It never worked out. It never felt that divine love, right? It's run you down. It's exhausted you out. And now there's this mindset of it's always going to be the same, right? So this is the challenge, right? Is to get out of that old pattern and to truly believe in this upgrade, right? We've got the Seven of Pentacles that came. Front of my phone is now falling off. I keep forgetting to re-glue it. It happens once every about 2 weeks now. So we've got the Seven of Pentacles of how to work through this, right? And this is kind of what I was saying about showing up every day, because this figure has planted new seeds. And when you've ever grown vegetables, it's almost impossible to believe that a massive pumpkin's going to turn out from that tiny little shoot. But this figure knows they've got to show up every day. They've got to tend to those seeds and put in the work. It's not necessarily, expecting big manifestations straight away. So this is you showing up every day to reorientate away from that Five of Pentacles, and you will see a big shift happen when you do that, right? It's really doubling down on what already came through in the transmission. So how to work with this energy, how to amplify it. We've got the High Priestess, the Eight of Wands, and the Nine of Cups. So this is helping with this as well, because the High Priestess understands, knows that she is drawing towards her that which brings abundance and fertility, as represented by the pomegranate and the palm leaves behind her. The balancing of the unseen realms, the unconscious realms that she knows will manifest in the physical realms, right? So there's this deep knowing that they're wanting you to cultivate. They're wanting you to get in an intuitive flow state of not trying to plan, not trying to control, not having expectations or assumptions, but really focus on that flow state, that intuitive body of following that in the day-to-day, and knowing that you are drawing towards you a deeper resonance, a deeper meaning, and you're going to see it unfold. But there's an element of faith that needs to come in. Again, helping you get out of this and trusting in the unfolding. It's not about trying to control it. It's not about trying to do all the things. This is it's not necessarily a slowed down card, but there is a softness and a surrendering in the energy that from that intuition, your instinct to do the things in the day is going to have more energy. And speaking of instincts, we've got Mercury and Sagittarius. This cultivation of this is going to bring a very strong alignment. Right? So as I said, that softening brings from being out of conflict, right? Whether that's with others, whether it's with your day-to-day, from that softening, your true instincts are going to come forward, right? So maybe that means that you then have that firm conversation with someone in your life that you might have been nervous about, that you might have thought would bring about this again, right? You've got to trust what comes through from this softening and then follow your instincts, because it's bringing you into a state of alignment. And then we get the Nine of Cups, right? Feeling good in your day-to-day, feeling good in the way that you communicate, feeling good in your emotional body about how you show up for the other, not externalizing your sense of self, the meaning that you find and how you communicate based on what's going on with the other in a way that does both parties a disservice, right? This is a inner gratitude, inner abundance, right? Of the joy. I'm so grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm so grateful I can go and brush my teeth. That kind of third house energy. I'm so grateful I've got a local shop, right? The more we cultivate that, the deeper of meaning that we find through practice, right? That we genuinely then start feeling emotionally fulfilled in our day-to-day. Now, what's at the bottom of the deck for the root energy of this transit? We got the Page of Cups. Now, this covers both the third house and that seventh house. This figure is talking to a fish in a cup, and that fish is talking back, and neither of them are weirded out by it. This is Pisces energy. This is you operating and communicating with source, the synchronicities, the magic of it all in your day-to-day, seeing the joy, seeing the magic in the day-to-day, but also finding the synchronicities, the clues, and the greater resonance of magic, right? Remember this consciousness card, which was all about that. This is also communicating from a place of love, right? This can see healthier, more magical, more divine love conversations with the other, whether that's source, a romantic relationship, or other people people in your life, right? This is really big opportunities of expressing love in a way that you're not feeling so painfully vulnerable. It's always a vulnerable act, but remember, talking to a fish and that fish is talking back and neither is weird, it's out about it. There's a confidence there to engage in your emotional body, in the way that you communicate, in the synchronicities, in the miracles of it all, in the downloads from source, your guides, whatever it is. Perhaps you're walking along the street and there's a cat and that cat's got a message for you. And rather than before, you're like, no, that's not real. I'm disconnected from this energy. You're like, okay, cool. What have you got to say to me, cat? This definitely feels like more joy, more lightness of being, more play in your day-to-day, in the meaning that you're finding, as well as I said, elevating that communication from a place of divine love. Right, so I'm going to do one little thing. I'm going to cut the two oracle decks and put those cards where I'd cut them as if I'm putting the card back, and we're going to see what clarifier we have with that. We have Kuan Yin, care and compassion, with Radha. Choose to be love. Do what is right for everyone involved. Offer a helping hand. And I feel like that is also about doing what's right for you, not just what's right for the other, which you might have done before. This feels like radical self-love here, of offering yourself a helping hand in the day-to-day, offering yourself love in the day-to-day, that is then going to restore this. And it's then going to have a knock-on effect that the more that you're embodying that love frequency in your day-to-day, in the way that you communicate, the more that is going to reverberate out into your relationships, right? So sometimes we can get a bit jaded. We can pull back with our energy with the other because we're wounded, right? And this feels like a cultivation of it within yourself, of honoring the divine love that you have within you, that you're then going to see you're not going to get hurt when you bring that love to the other, if the other doesn't give it back in the way that before you really needed, right? Now this feels like a real sort of power energy coming through. That means you can still operate from divine love despite what's going on, without being drained, without the wounds. With consciousness, we have conception. The frequency of conception invites us to bring our consciousness to our origin, the place where everything in creation begins. It helps us to remember the infinite potential and possibilities of this space and what we can manifest through our own focused awareness and intention. Doubling down on this, but also bringing you back to the infinite potential and possibilities of moving away from this and of embodying this and understanding this. So trust. And we've got light again. Right, my loves, my lovely Sagittariuses. As I said, if you want a personal reading, 50% off at the moment, up until it'll be midnight on the 12th of February. And so, yeah, reach out to me if you want that. If you like this video, if it resonated, hit that like button, leave me a comment. It brings me so much joy. It really does. But you can activate that level of divine consciousness and abundance in the way that you're communicating. Lol, do what you want. Obviously, always do what you want. My Sagittarius is such an honor and a privilege to read for you, as always. Be good to yourselves, be good to those around you, safe travels, and be well until we meet again.